three dimensions that shape the universe. The physical heaven, visible, tangible. The third heaven, incomparable glory, where God dwells in majesty. The second heaven, the battlefield where unseen forces determine destinies. This image is but a glimpse. What you are about to discover will change the way you see life. But why does no one speak about this? Why does such a powerful truth remain hidden? Prepare yourself. In the next few minutes, we will unveil the secrets of the three heavens, revealing the impact they have on your life, both now and for eternity. You might be wondering, why does no one talk about this? The truth is, this impactful revelation is rarely discussed. But today, we are breaking the silence. And pay attention. Stay until the end, because there's a crucial point about the third heaven that almost no one mentions. And once you understand this key, everything will make sense in a surprising way. Imagine holding a map that reveals not only the final destination, but also everything happening behind the scenes of the universe. That's exactly what understanding the three heavens can offer. These are dimensions that go beyond what the eye can see, and each one has practical implications for your life right now, not just after we leave this world. To give you a glimpse of how deep this subject is, in 2 Corinthians 12, 2-4, the Apostle Paul mentions being caught up to the third heaven, an experience so extraordinary that he says he heard words that cannot be expressed in human language. This brief account already shows that we're not talking about something theoretical or abstract, but spiritual realities that directly influence what we experience. So, if you want to understand why this topic rarely appears in sermons and how the knowledge of the first, second, and third heavens can bring practical transformations to your faith, stay with me. In the next few minutes, we'll dive into the details of the first heaven and unveil a crucial aspect that could revolutionize the way you approach your daily life. Are you ready? Then let's uncover what most people don't know. And by the end, you'll discover why this truth isn't shared as widely as it should be. Want to know what has been hidden for so long? Stay right here, and I promise every minute will be worth it. Have you ever looked up at the sky and wondered what truly exists beyond the blue we see every day? This first heaven, formed by Earth's atmosphere, is so much more than a beautiful backdrop to admire. It is a genuine field of life where birds soar, storms take shape, and planes chart routes into the unknown. But why is this layer of air so special? Because without it, life would simply be impossible. Think about it. Without the invisible ceiling that protects the planet, we'd be exposed to extreme temperatures, radiation, and other cosmic dangers. In other words, the first heaven is a vital shield, created to keep everything functioning in perfect harmony. The Bible itself confirms this idea. In Genesis 1:8, we read, "And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day." It's not just something beautiful to behold, but an intentional masterpiece designed by God to sustain life. Every cloud, every gust of wind, and every star shimmering at night points to a creator who planned everything in intricate detail. However, all this visible grandeur serves as a reminder of something even greater. If the first heaven, brimming with beauty and purpose, already inspires our awe, imagine what lies ahead in the next dimensions. It's as if this heaven is merely God's calling card, inviting us to delve into deeper mysteries. As you gaze at the horizon, ask yourself, what lies beyond this vast expanse of blue? You'll realize that the first heaven, as marvelous as it is just the beginning of a spiritual journey. It connects the earthly to the divine, opening the door for us to reflect on the higher realities revealed in the Bible. So, stay alert. What follows will uncover how our daily routines, the battles we face, and the promises we await are tied to something far greater than the eye can see. After all, if the first heaven is already so magnificent, what surprises await us in the second and third? Get ready to find out. Imagine waking up one day feeling an inexplicable heaviness, thoughts seemingly appearing out of nowhere, and circumstances that challenge you emotionally. Have you ever considered that many of these struggles might have roots in an unseen realm? This is where the second heaven comes in, a spiritual dimension beyond our physical sight, yet one that strongly influences the reality we experience. In this domain, angels and demons clash, waging battles that resonate in events within the natural world. It's no coincidence that Ephesians 6:12 warns us, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." In other words, much of what we face are initially pressures, conflicts, and even certain obstacles may originate from this field of forces beyond what the eyes can see. To understand this better, think of how a clock works. You only see the hands moving, but not the internal gears that allow this continuous motion. The second heaven is like those hidden gears. Though invisible, they control and influence what manifests on the clock of the physical world. In this way, the spiritual dimension impacts our decisions, emotions, and even the trajectory of our lives. Within this realm, God's intentions meet resistance from forces seeking to distort His plan. This is why, at times, we encounter seemingly irresistible temptations or cascading problems. These occurrences may be a direct result of battles being waged in this spiritual environment. Yet we need not fear. Just as there are evil forces, there are also angelic armies sent by God to protect and sustain those who place their trust in Him. This ongoing conflict reveals something powerful about our journey. Our lives are not limited to the tangible. Understanding the reality of the second heaven highlights the crucial role of faith, which enables us to see beyond the physical. Prayer, in turn, becomes our greatest weapon, connecting us to God's strength and aligning our choices with His purpose. When we acknowledge that a spiritual dimension operates parallel to the earthly one, our sense of responsibility expands. We begin to understand that every action can reverberate far beyond the present, shaping not only our future, but also that of others. This calls us to adopt a more vigilant attitude, for even what seems trivial might be tied to a true battle behind the scenes. If you're now wondering, how do I win these battles? The answer lies in turning to the power of God. He provides us with spiritual armor, described in the same passage from Ephesians, to resist evil. This divine power works invisibly, yet transformatively, strengthening our minds, spirits, and hearts. However, this story doesn't end here. The second heaven, with all its battles, is just one part of God's grand design. There is a third dimension, even more extraordinary, where God's presence manifests fully and the ultimate purpose of all creation is revealed. Want to understand how this affects your life in a definitive way? Then prepare to explore the third heaven and uncover truths that could change the way you live, pray, and view the future. We've now reached the pinnacle of everything we've discussed so far. The third heaven. Unlike the physical sky we see every day, or the spiritual realm where invisible battles are fought, the third heaven is the sphere of divine fullness. Here, there is no room for pain, sorrow, or any trace of imperfection. In this place, God's will is experienced in its purest form, and every beat of our heart aligns with the love emanating from the Creator. It's difficult to put something so magnificent into words. Perhaps that's why the Apostle Paul, when describing his experience of being caught up to the third heaven, mentioned hearing inexpressible things. 2 Corinthians 12:4. He gives us a glimpse that this heaven cannot simply be grasped with human logic. It is a reality that transcends what we see and feel, a realm where there are no barriers to communion with God. To illustrate, think of the relationship between an artist and their masterpiece. When we admire a painting, we can perceive the beauty of the colors, the harmony of the strokes, and even the emotions the artwork conveys. However, being with the artist during the creative process would be an even more profound experience, as we'd understand each brushstroke and every emotion poured into the work. The third heaven is like being with the great artist in his private studio, witnessing perfection in motion. The book of Revelation 21:2 gives us a glimpse of this indescribable place. The holy city, the new Jerusalem, descending from heaven, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. This image of beauty and preparation symbolizes the warm welcome God has reserved for those who love Him and respond to His invitation. In other words, it is there that every promise finds its fulfillment, every pain is replaced by peace, and every unanswered question dissolves in the fullness of the Creator. And if you think this destination is unattainable, remember that the Bible points to divine grace as the way to reach it. It's not through our merit or effort that we receive entry to this supreme heaven, but through faith in Jesus Christ. He is the bridge connecting our human limitations to God's perfection. Without this bridge, we would be destined to remain trapped in our failings. With it, however, we gain access to a place where God's glory knows no bounds. You might wonder, all of this sounds wonderful, but is it something I'll only experience after I die? The truth is, the third heaven is not just a future promise, it's also an inspiration for the present. When we understand that we were created to dwell in this level of intimacy with God, we begin to view life from an eternal perspective. Our approach to problems, our response to challenges, and even the way we love those around us are completely transformed. We start living as citizens of heaven here on earth, reflecting Christ's character in our daily lives. This doesn't mean we stop suffering or facing difficulties, but it does mean that our hope becomes unshakable. Trials may strike us, but we are strengthened by the conviction that something infinitely greater awaits us. It's as if every obstacle becomes a reminder that we are just passing through, preparing for an eternal home where evil has no place. The third heaven is not merely an exotic realm reserved for a select few. It is, in fact, the destination humanity was created for from the very beginning. God desires that all people experience this perfect communion, and the invitation is extended to anyone willing to embrace faith. However, it is up to each of us to respond to this call. We can choose to live with a limited view of the first heaven, admiring the beauty of nature without recognizing the author behind it. We might even acknowledge the spiritual battles of the second heaven, yet never seek divine help to overcome them. Or we can take a step further, wholeheartedly accepting the promise of the third heaven, and in doing so, find meaning in every moment of our existence. So ask yourself, how does the knowledge of the third heaven change the way I live today? If you allow this perspective to shape your choices, your prayers, and the way you relate to God and others, you'll realize that heaven is not just a distant place, but a reality that can transform your life right now. The third heaven is the climax of God's divine plan, the place where Creator and creation meet in perfect harmony. There, God's grace reveals its most splendid form, and everything we seek, love, peace, meaning, finds its ultimate fulfillment. However, this hope is not confined to an abstract belief. It should reflect in our present, illuminating every decision we make. Remember, the Bible speaks of three heavens, but only in the third do we find the fullest expression of God's heart. It is where the journey of faith leads us, propelled by grace and sustained by the certainty that there is a greater purpose for humanity. Therefore, keep your eyes fixed on eternity and live today as a citizen of this kingdom that will never end. The door is open. You only need to walk through it. But here arises the pressing question. If the subject of the three heavens is so powerful and transformative, why does almost no one speak of it openly? Could there be hidden interests or fears preventing people from exploring such a profound topic? Stay with me, because in the next section, we'll delve into the reasons behind this silence. And the answer might be more surprising and challenging than you imagine. We now arrive at a thought-provoking question. If learning about the three heavens has such transformative potential for Christian life, why do so few churches talk about it? Why does something so profound largely remain out of the spotlight? Let's examine the key reasons and understand how they affect the spread of this truth. Number 1. Avoiding controversy and misunderstandings. Many leaders choose not to delve into topics that might lead to misinterpretations or even superstitious practices. However, by neglecting the three heavens, there's a risk of fostering a shallow Christianity, disconnected from the supernatural dimension that the Bible itself presents. Discussing angels, demons, and spiritual battles requires care and a strong biblical foundation. Fearing confusion or being labeled as sensationalists, they often opt for silence. Number 2. Influence of materialistic thinking. We live in a culture that values the visible, tangible, and immediate. Spiritual concepts that are invisible are often dismissed as mysticism or conspiracy theories. This mindset sometimes infiltrates churches, making it more convenient to avoid topics that seem out of touch with reality. Number 3. Fear of losing relevance with the audience. Some believe that messages about spiritual warfare, heaven, and eternity are less appealing than practical topics like relationships or financial prosperity. However, by neglecting the three heavens, there's a risk of fostering a shallow Christianity, disconnected from the supernatural dimension that the Bible itself presents. Number 4. Implications for responsibility and life change. If there are three heavens, the visible, the spiritual realm in conflict, and God's ultimate dwelling place, this profoundly impacts how we live. Acknowledging the second heaven compels us to pray more, stay vigilant, and fight against the unseen forces of evil. Understanding the third heaven as our final destination reshapes our priorities and choices. Not everyone is ready to face this reformation in their own lives. Number 5. Control of narratives and hidden agendas. For some, keeping believers uninformed about spiritual realities is a way to maintain control. Speaking of demons, angels, and invisible forces requires a sincere pursuit of God, deep study of Scripture, and, most importantly, the freedom to question certain human traditions. Those who fear losing control may have little interest in promoting this kind of knowledge. Number 6. Seeking balance and truth. The challenge lies in addressing the three heavens in a balanced way, avoiding both fanaticism and negligence. It requires studying the context of Scripture, reflecting on the history of Christianity, and applying these teachings to daily life, always guided by grace and truth. Number 7. An invitation to a deeper faith. Speaking of the three heavens is not merely about satisfying theological curiosity, it's about expanding our understanding of the gospel. Seeing the full picture, physical, spiritual, and eternal, transforms how we pray, face temptations, and understand our purpose in the world. Ultimately, it brings to light the hope that our struggles are not in vain, and that an indescribable glory awaits us. Neglecting to talk about the three heavens impoverishes our vision of God and His plan. When we discover that beyond the visible, there is a second heaven where spiritual battles take place, and a third heaven where divine fullness awaits us, we begin to live with greater commitment and hope. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these reasons do you think most contributes to the silence surrounding the three heavens? Leave your comment and share this content with someone who also needs to know this truth. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to keep receiving transformative insights like this. After all, understanding each dimension of heaven could be the step you've been missing to dive deeper into the purpose God has for your life.